Choose a starter. How many times have you made this decision, and with these 3 Pokemon specifically? Who did you pick the first time? Have you always picked the same one? Do their evolutions affect your decision? Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. These 3 Pokemon are so well known and beloved that Game Freak is still giving you this choice in even the most recent games. Some would say the attention they've received has gotten a little out of hand, and yeah, I can totally see that. Grass, fire, and water are used as the introduction to tight matchups, and which one you resonate with the most can say a lot about your character. But how well do these 3 hold up as the start of one of the most important Pokemon traditions? Let's take a look at the Generation 1 starters. Being one of the most anticipated elements of every new generation, the starters are a huge deal. Creating a well-rounded selection can be challenging, but I'd say there are 3 things that make for a great group of starters. First, make sure each one is easily identifiable in terms of the creature it's based on, as well as its physical and elemental capabilities. This is generally always done well. Second, make sure they have very expressive and distinguished personalities. Vary them enough so that different people gravitate to different ones, choosing whoever resonates with them the best. And last, have a good amount of variety in what kind of creatures they are, so that they're not too samey or they're not all bipedal humanoids, stuff like that. Differentiate their forms as best as possible. In the case of the Generation 1 starters, these 3 get most of these things right. Varied creatures and their abilities are clearly conveyed, but the only nitpick is, personality-wise, they're all pretty similar and geared to appeal to the same kind of person. Do you like cool things? Well, you'll probably like these 3. As they evolve, their personalities change in the same ways, and they could benefit from more variety in their attitudes. But even though they could be more unique, they're still an absolutely excellent selection of starters and are the very definition of classic Pokemon. You'll find a ton of fans for each one of these, and rightly so. These are some appealing designs. One starter tends to stand out more than the rest, and is the favorite of the generation, while another one tends to be hated on and is the least favorite, but this isn't a flat rule. It's pretty clear that Charmander won the race against these 3, but between Bulbasaur and Squirtle, it's hard to say who the least appreciated is. Bulbasaur is actually a great place to start. Bulbasaur, the seed Pokemon. Bulbasaur is a small, dinosaur-like creature with a large bulb sprouting from its back. It's not very often that a starter has a secondary type in its first form, but lo and behold, the very first one did. The name Bulbasaur comes from bulb and saur, a commonly used suffix for lizards and dinosaurs. The large bulb on its back is there from birth, and it grows as Bulbasaur does. The bulb stores energy and is filled with nutritious seeds, allowing them to go days without eating. Bulbasaur like to nap in the sunlight, so their bulbs can absorb energy and grow larger. Of the 3 original starters, Bulbasaur was always the one that spoke to me. It's an interesting design to start things off, and it's notable that it's not just a flower or plant. It's an inventive combination of foliage and creature. The likable personality and face are what really get me though. A nice balance of cute and cool, similar to Pikachu. This is a great buddy to have on an adventure. The vines that extend from the sides of the bulb add some nice depth to the design. And I always appreciate when a Pokemon isn't based on any specific creature or object. Bulbasaur always felt like the least popular of the original trio, with the other 2 getting much more attention in media. But I love him. He's still my pick to this day and is one of the best grass starters the franchise has ever seen. Shiny Bulbasaur has a green body that matches the bulb pretty closely. It's not a bad take on the palette and looks pretty cute. Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur, the seed Pokemon. The bulb on Ivysaur's back has opened up and now shows a large flower waiting to bloom. Ivysaur sports a more energetic and aggressive look. The name now uses Ivy in place of bulb. Ivysaur's bulb continues to draw energy and nutrients from its body. Its legs are thicker and sturdier to help support the increased weight, even losing the ability to stand on its hind legs. Ivysaur will spend more time in the sunlight the closer the flower grows to blooming, and it will start to release a sweet and pleasant aroma when it's nearly time. Ivysaur is a great middle stage. The more opened up bulb looks lush with the grass on its back, and its new expression shows how dependable they can be. Middle stages can often be forgettable and feel like stepping stones to the final form, but this one's a standout for sure. Being featured in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has certainly helped his reputation. Nature is a beautiful thing, and plants and flowers are so fulfilling to watch grow and blossom. So it's awesome that they managed to capture that so well in a Pokemon's evolutionary line. And it's one of the most appealing and fun things about Pokemon. My only real complaint would be how big its head is in its 3D model. It looks like some kind of mascot costume. Like Bulbasaur, shiny Ivysaur also has a green body, and it looks nice, but the yellow flower is not fantastic. And I wish it was a color that contrasted much better with the green. Ivysaur evolves into the first fully evolved starter, Venusaur. The seed Pokemon. Are you sure it's not supposed to be flower? Now much larger and heavier, Venusaur sports a fully blossomed flower on its back. The larger stem gives the impression of a tree, and its bumpy skin is reminiscent of a toad. The name now uses Venus in place of Ivy, referring to the Venus flytrap flower, though it doesn't behave anything like one. Venusaur spreads its flower petals in the sun, absorbing nutrients and filling its body with power. Plenty of sunlight will cause Venusaur's flower to take on vivid colorations. Venusaur will relax quietly as it warms itself, releasing a pleasant, calming fragrance from its petals that soothe hostile emotions. They'll do what they can to follow the sunshine and are particularly strong in the summertime. After rainy days, the flower will release a stronger smell that tends to attract other Pokemon. Venusaur is quite the change from the diminutive and cute little Bulbasaur. It's awfully large and far more aggressive in appearance. I wish it was just a little more appealing. I mean, it is pretty cool, a hulking beast with a flower on its back. There's just something about it that doesn't quite get there. I think it's the face. It could be so much cooler looking, but there are a lot of traditionally cool looking Pokemon as is, so a more monstrous look is great for variety. In fact, embracing the monster-like quality really works for him. Yeah, that's a cool angle. The Titanic flower is the real highlight, and it feels like its own little moving forest. Venusaur is an absolute classic. This is a great line that effectively captures the spirit of floral evolution. Shiny Venusaur is rocking the yellow flower much better than Ivysaur ever did, and the green skin blends nicely with it. Mega Evolution was introduced in Generation 6. This is a temporary form Pokemon could take in battle where they would grow stronger and change their appearance. While it's still a much better idea than Gigantamax, it was horribly botched in its execution with a ton of disappointing designs. Most of them are cluttered with unnecessary features and they feel completely aimless. A few of the designs are gems, but I kind of wish Game Freak never went in this direction in the first place. Don't even get me started on the competitive ramifications. Mega Venusaur is the first Mega Evolution we're looking at, and at least it's not too bad. The foliage on its back gives a much stronger jungle impression now, with a larger flower and more leaves. It's just kind of dopey looking. The bath mat looking flower on its head is definitely the low point of this design. Everything else is fine, it's just unnecessary, and again, feels like you're overloading the regular simple and clean Venusaur design with a bunch of cluttered filler. You can tell when a designer is looking for things to alter, as opposed to having an inspired vision of what they want to create. In any case, this is decent enough for a Mega Evolution. Venusaur also gets a Gigantamax form, and very surprisingly, this is a huge improvement over the Mega. Look at this monstrosity. Those gigantic petals draping down his body and face give him such an intimidating and unique design for a Pokemon. I said his bumpy skin was toad-like before, but this really sells the idea. The giant vines are awesome, and it just looks like some kind of all-powerful swamp deity. Apparently, its flower can erupt poison like a volcano, which is the first time the poison attribute of this line has been brought up. Gen 1 did not try to hide the fact that they threw poison on anything that looked like it could have it. But in any case, I'm impressed, Gigantamax. You did a really good job with this one. And that's the Bulbasaur family. Grass is one of my favorite types, and this is an exceptional start. But grass has a tendency to burn up, and the heat coming off of this next Pokemon has overwhelmingly left its mark on the franchise in a way this line could only dream. Charmander. The lizard Pokemon. Charmander is a small bipedal lizard whose tail is forever aflame. Its cute appearance belies how dangerous it is. Charmander's name is a combination of char and salamander. The fire on Charmander's tail expresses its life force and emotions. A robust flame indicates good health and will burn even stronger when it gets angry. A weaker flame indicates exhaustion, or it can start to waver when they're feeling happy. The sound of its fire burning can be heard in quiet places. In the rain, steam will spout from the tip of its tail, but if its tail goes out, its life will end. They prefer hot places and things, though newborns may accidentally burn themselves on their own tail fire. What a fragile and adorable creature Charmander is. Their expressive curiosity really does make them feel like children. Yet another one of the most well-known and beloved Pokemon ever. Charmander is a very simple and clean design. Fiery tails are an awesome idea, one that's been done quite a lot by now in the Pokemon series. But Charmander was the first one, and by far the Pokemon that it is the most integral to. It paints kind of a quiet tragedy that makes them really endearing. Gotta protect a baby. It's just so lovable and cool. What a well-realized Pokemon. Shiny Charmander is pretty bad, with just kind of a lighter orange given to the model. This is certainly a dud, but luckily it doesn't stay that way for long. Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, the flame Pokemon. Charmeleon is very similar looking to Charmander, being a bit larger with sharp claws, a horn on its head, and a more serious personality. The name Charmeleon comes from Char and Chameleon, though there really is nothing chameleon-like about it. Charmeleon are vicious fighters, slashing with their razor-sharp claws and whipping their fiery tails mercilessly. They seek out and enjoy challenging fights, even creating bluish-white flames when riled up enough. Swinging their tails around can raise the temperature to uncomfortably high levels and ignite their surroundings. Charmeleon will calm down when they win their fights. They live in rocky mountains, lighting the night sky up like stars with their fiery tails. Charmeleon's another great middle stage. The intense shift in its disposition makes it feel decidedly different from Charmander. Losing the cuter qualities is a change a lot of middle stages make. The more battle-ready look is intimidating, and like its pre-evolution, it's a very effective and simple design. You can feel the energy and stamina coming off of it. The new shade of orange is more attractive, and the sharp features make it clear how dangerous this Pokemon can be. This one's tailor-made for anyone who likes cool and fiery designs. And it's always been the standout of the first-gen middle stages. Shiny Charmeleon looks almost as bad as Shiny Charmander, but just wait, it's almost time for a nice overhaul. Charmeleon evolves into the second most well-known Pokemon in existence, Charizard, the flame Pokemon. Having grown wings, Charizard now effectively captures the true childlike wonder of a dragon. It absolutely cannot be understated just how much love and time in the spotlight this Pokemon has received in the franchise's history. Some would even say to a sickening degree, and believe me, we will definitely be getting to that. Charizard's name comes from Char and Lizard. Charizard breathes intensely strong flames from its mouth. This fire is hot enough to melt almost anything, even boulders and 10,000-ton glaciers. This breath inflicts horrible pain on opponents, and getting angry will cause its tail to burn in a robust, bluish-white flame. The temperature of Charizard's fire increases the more challenging experiences it faces, and they've even unintentionally caused forest fires. Its wings allow it to fly to heights of close to 4,600 feet. It'll fly around looking for strong opponents and won't attack those it deems weaker than itself. Where do I even start? Charizard is considered the most popular Pokemon ever, and is incredibly famous. That's really not surprising. A fiery dragon with an appealing design is bound to rise to the top, and he's been around since the beginning. But as famous as Charizard is, he's grown quite the ire from the Pokemon community. After 20 plus years, Charizard is still celebrated as Game Freak's golden goose, and gets special attention that people are quite frankly sick to death of at this point. Constantly featured, constantly getting new special forms before its other contemporary starters, and just in your face in everything Pokemon. It's completely understandable that a lot of people feel this way. It's clear Game Freak is pretty tone deaf when they're making the champion of their newest generation's signature Pokemon, Charizard. How much more are you going to smother us with this Bellyzard? It's a shame too, because Charizard is a really great design and screams classic Pokemon. But the novelty's just worn off by now. We're over it. We just want attention to be given to something else, but Generation 1 are the Game Freak darlings, and Charizard is the favorite. Design-wise, he's not too impressive or creative, but everything works beautifully together. The shape of the wings is pretty much iconic at this point, and aside from the potbelly, the sleek design all comes together to make something instantly recognizable. As tired as we all are of the favoritism, it's hard to deny that Charizard got that favoritism because of how readily appealing and understandable his form is. I like Charizard a good deal, and I couldn't think of a better fire starter to lead the franchise. He's not a personal favorite, but his overexposure hasn't clouded how important he is. Shiny Charizard is where the lackluster yellow of the past finally gives people what they want in a black and red coloration. Like Charizard, this is one of the most popular and famous shiny forms because it's a classic and gorgeous color combination. This kind of color reworking is exactly what I want them to do with a lot of the other older shinies, and how could they not considering how well this one turned out? As favoritism goes, Charizard gets 2 Mega Evolutions. Mega Charizard X dons a black and blue coloration, and is a rougher look overall. The flames spilling from the side of its mouth are inspired, and the jagged wings make for a much more wicked tone. It's a pretty solid change, and has garnered a good amount of fans. Mega Charizard Y, however, is much more similar to the base Charizard and epitomizes the unnecessary add-ons Megas get very clearly. There are some spikes and elongated features thrown around, making for a pretty haphazard and unfocused design. It's not too bad, it could certainly be worse, but as is blatantly self-indulgent. Mega Charizard X would have been more than enough to suffice. For the Gigantamax form, Charizard gets a huge increase in size and also adds roaring flames to its shoulders and horns. This form feels awfully excessive, very unimaginative, and yet again seems to not know what to do to dress up Charizard. Make him bigger and throw some fire on him, how necessary. Pokemon are often very well executed and carefully crafted, and that's what's wrong with a lot of these Mega and Gigantamax forms. They trample all over those simple and clean designs. These Charizard forms are just blending together at this point, and I don't think you should be making them unless you have a specifically creative idea in mind. The Charmander family is a staple for Pokemon starters, and clearly left an unmatched impression in Pokemon's history. With all three of them being fan favorites, we can probably expect a lot more of them in the future, but Game Freak can't expect to cash in on this line for much longer. Let's wash away all that tension and move on to the last Generation 1 starter, one who is sure to not be forgotten. Squirtle. The tiny turtle Pokemon. Squirtle is a blue bipedal turtle with a cute curly tail. Water starters are often based on aquatic creatures that can also live on the land, allowing them to run around and be a part of the world more naturally. Squirtle's name is a combination of squirt and turtle. When Squirtle are born, their backs are soft, hardening over time into tough shells. The shell's round shape and grooves help minimize its resistance in the water, allowing it to swim at high speeds. Squirtle shoots powerful water spouts and foam from its mouth, retracting into its shell and spraying when it senses danger. Squirtle is unbelievably adorable. Not often are turtles designed with such round and smooth features, and it pays off nicely here. It's also nice to see a turtle that isn't about being slow, and there's a lot of energy coming off of him. Like Bulbasaur and Charmander, Squirtle does a great job at balancing the cute but cool aesthetic. That expressiveness is really endearing, and he has the cutest little limbs and tail. Look at him doing his dance. So cute. It's a shame he loses so much of his charm by his final evolution. Shiny Squirtle is a lighter, paler blue with a green shell. It's far from impressive, but the shell saves it from being too disappointing. Squirtle evolves into Wartortle, the turtle Pokemon. Wartortle is larger, with a more battle-ready disposition. Its tail and ears are now fluffy and almost cloud-like in appearance. The name Wartortle comes from war, or warrior, as well as tortoise and turtle. Wartortle are popular with the elderly as a symbol of longevity. Its tail will deepen in color as it ages, and if algae is found on its shell, it's a sign that it's very old. Scratches on their shells are evidence of how tough they are as battlers, and it's even been said that they can live for 10,000 years? Their furry tails store air for long diving sessions, and they'll cleverly maneuver their ears to maintain their balance while swimming. Wartortle hide in the water to stalk their prey, and their tails will still stand out a bit even if they retract into their shells. The new focused expression of Wartortle gives a confident impression. The fluffy ears and tail are very striking and add an unexpected element of beauty to the design. This is a great progression of Squirtle's simple features. I'm happy to say that all three of these middle stages are done really well, and it's funny that they all progress from the same cutesy look to a more serious and aggressive vibe. While they're all exceptional, I think Wartortle is my favorite of the three. Shiny Wartortle's shell has a pretty ugly shade of orange, and that lavender color meshes terribly with it. Poor color direction at its finest. Wartortle evolves into Blastoise, the shellfish Pokemon. Blastoise drops the fluffy look for two embedded water cannons in its shell. It's often looked at as the rival of Charizard, being the two primarily featured starters of the original games in America. Blastoise's name comes from the words blast and tortoise. The cannons on Blastoise's shell fire highly pressurized water, strong enough to pierce concrete and thick steel. It can use this force to propel its body for high-speed attacks. Blastoise keeps itself heavy to withstand recoil and plants its feet firmly before firing. They have exceptional aim and can strike small objects from over 160 feet away. Its large body can also be used to crush enemies, and it'll withdraw into its shell in dicey situations. Blastoise has always been my least favorite of the final Gen 1 starters. While the water cannons are a great idea, the overall bulky body and pretty lame looking face and limbs hold this design back quite a bit. It's just a pretty boring look, and it sucks that the fluffy tail and ears were not only not embellished on, but were completely abandoned. Why drop unique and interesting design elements for no reason, especially when there's so little going on here? I'm making it sound much worse than it is. Blastoise is a fine enough concept and execution. I just think think a few changes could really elevate this Pokemon to something much more impressive. Just look at its 3D model. Stiff-looking Bozo doesn't look like he can move his arms. I don't like shiny Blastoise at all. That combination of green and purple is hideous and looks awful together. As with others, Blastoise has a Mega Evolution and Gigantamax form. Mega Blastoise ups the firepower with one enormous cannon on its back and two smaller cannons on its hands. It's a pretty unimaginative way of progressing its design and feels completely forgettable. What's up with this derpy long chin? Do they just alter things for the sake of it? This thing wants to look cool, but it's just so uninspired and poorly executed. Gigantamax Blastoise is actually a huge improvement, turning Blastoise's shell into a titanic fortress of artillery. This is a smart way to change up its shell, and the menacing glaring face in the back is really intimidating and sells the whole concept really well. Seeing all the cannons fire is very satisfying. Like Venusaur, it's surprisingly another solid Gigantamax, and much better executed than its Mega. And that's the Squirtle family, and in my opinion, the biggest letdown of the original starters. The first two are great, but Blastoise fails to meet the expectations they set, and is by far the most boring of the final evolutions. And that's it. Those are the Generation 1 starters. Despite some complaints, these are some of the most classic Pokemon out there, and they make a great trio and introduction. It's not the perfect selection, but one of the best the franchise has seen. My favorite of the three basic forms is Bulbasaur. For the middle stages, Wartortle, and surprisingly, even to myself, Charizard for the finals, and I am far from a fanboy. Of all the Pokemon we looked at today, Bulbasaur is going to be added to the board of my favorite Pokemon. But Squirtle almost made it. Starters are a hard thing to get right, and as the generations go on, there are examples of good and bad selection. Generation 1 did a great job starting things off. Many would still say they're the best group, and I can totally understand that. It's important to remember that cute Pokemon are cute, and every Pokemon is someone's favorite. Which of these starters is your choice? Thank you for watching, and see you next time for more Pokemon reviews.